Hey everyone, welcome to Clickheads. I'm Eddie, and today we're going to be talking about Bethesda, Doom Eternal, and microtransactions. And I'll begin with a question for you. Does a $60 single-player game really need a Battle Pass progression system? Now, if you're anything like me, my first instinct would be to scream no, particularly when it comes to a game like Doom. This almost reflex response has been developed in me because of some truly terrible publisher practices. Bethesda, for a long time, published and made some of my favourite games of all time: Elder Scrolls, the modern Wolfensteins, and the first-person Fallout titles. But in recent years, the developer and publisher known as Bethesda has been lured ever so closer to the complete dark side. Broken games, broken promises, and flat-out lies have followed this company wherever they have gone, and their reputation for greed, falsehood, and exploitation of their customer base has swollen to such a degree they arguably rival the great gaming evil EA for consumer trust. Even EA occasionally makes good games, like the recent Jedi Fallen Order, but that is almost completely Respawn Entertainment's doing, so maybe we don't give them too much credit, eh? It's gotten so bad with Bethesda that pinning them to the wall, and rightly so, has become almost a legitimate YouTube career in and of itself. That's when you know you fucked up. So back to that knee-jerk reaction that I had. Does Doom Eternal need a Battle Pass? Well, around 4 days ago, this article appeared on the website Multiplayer First. What they drew attention to was that in Giant Bomb's 30-minute gameplay preview, a by now ubiquitous progression screen appeared at the end of missions, detailing the player's journey up pass ranks and the unlocks they get for each level. What was even more worrying was that in another screenshot, a clear boosters section could be seen in the main menu system, making some fans worry that monetization of the Battle Pass system would be similar to other games like Fortnite, Apex Legends, and Modern Warfare, whereby players could pay to skip levels or gain access to XP bonuses to rank up faster. I'd also like to draw attention to the fact that in this second screenshot, it's fairly clear that a Series 1 label is present alongside a countdown for the time left. That would indicate to me that more than one season of content is planned. Now, to be fair, the game director of Doom Eternal, Hugo Martin, did clear this situation up on Facebook in a reply to a question. I'll paraphrase for you a little bit, but he essentially said, no, Doom is a $60 game, all the cosmetic unlock content is optional, and that it's all free. That's the key part here. He says that all the progression, all the cosmetics, it's all free and part of the $60 experience. Now, this news has been covered by other channels already in the last few days, and for the most part, the vibe check returned a positive result. That's largely because of the identity of ID Software as a company, who Hugo Martin is as a developer, and what Doom 2016 did in terms of bucking the worst modern gaming trends. ID Software and Martin himself have a lot of community trust, precisely because the previous game was such a refreshing experience. In being deliberately old school, both in terms of design and value for money, Doom 2016 set itself apart from all the modern monetization nonsense present in a lot of other franchises. So it's reasonable to assume that when Martin essentially says there's no bullshit in this game, don't worry, it's actually true. And yet, there's something that doesn't quite add up to me. Putting my tinfoil hat on for a moment, which I don't want to do, by the way, I've just been burnt so many times before, there are ways to interpret what Martin said slightly differently. For this, I'm going to bring up a reference that only OGs will smile to themselves about. I want to take you back to 2011. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 was going to be released this year, and in the run-up to it, Robert Bowling, the community manager for Infinity Ward, made a very famous proclamation. Modern Warfare 3 would have no more last stand.
No last stand. Fuck you, last stand.
This was a much derided perk from the previous games that meant players who were killed went into a pre-death state where they could still shoot you with a pistol. But Infinity Ward kept a death streak perk called Final Stand in the final game, which worked in a very similar way, except it would only work when the player had died a given many times in a row without getting a kill and didn't tell anyone at the announcement. This, I can tell you, was not popular, and there's a lesson here. Robert Bowling didn't lie, he just didn't tell the whole story. It's true, Last Stand was gone, but the spirit of the statement wasn't entirely accurate. Now, I'm not saying that Martin is doing that in his Facebook reply, but the room is there for this kind of thing to occur. Now, Martin did say in his reply, Doom Eternal is not a free-to-play title, as Apex is, nor is it a mobile game, which feels like a bit of shade thrown in Bethesda's face regarding Elder Scrolls Blades. So that direct reference is reassuring, but nobody else has even brought up the fact that in all likelihood, Doom Eternal will have more than one season, and there's some cold hard facts about development that we're rubbing up against, and that's what we'll be discussing next. Nothing is ever really free. If Doom Eternal is going to have ongoing content, as having a Battle Pass system in the first place is kind of indicative of, then the cost of producing that content has to be paid for in some way. This is kind of inescapable. Now, ID Software could in theory absorb all that cost themselves in a move that truly would be momentous. They could, as Martin puts it, give us a complete experience with no store as we expect. But in my mind, what is more likely to happen is that as the seasons progress post-release, there will be some cost to the consumer involved. Perhaps a one-off fee every 3 months, kind of like the Fortnite model. Now that is technically not a microtransaction. When you say that word, it conjures up the worst images possible. Think of Fallout 76 fridges, for example. But it is cost outside of the base $60 you pay for a game. Here's the thing. I don't think battle passes are unreasonable when implemented well. If I like a game and continue to play it for a long time and I want new content to keep playing, I personally don't think the battle pass is evil. Devs have to make the new content for us, so we should expect that they need some reasonable compensation for that work. I know a lot of you might not feel the same, but they are certainly better than the alternative, being nickel and dime for overpriced tiny additions or unfair advantages whenever PvP is concerned. Loot boxes have always made me feel sick, especially the most egregious examples like those in the old COD games, let alone games like FIFA. But the question is, as the title of the video suggests, does Doom Eternal specifically need a system like this? Well, that depends on your point of view. Doom 2016 was a hardcore game, refreshingly so, and it suits being replayed on multiple difficulties and even in time trial and speedrun contexts. You don't really get rewarded progressionally for doing any of these things though. The pleasure of playing the game in these ways was reward enough for the vast majority of hardcore players, and in that statement we stumble across a deeper truth about games and the marketplace. The biggest games, the ones that sell the most and have the widest appeal, are either casual experiences to begin with, or have developed casual elements to them that players can enjoy if the game itself is rather hardcore. A great example of this is a game like Mortal Kombat 11. Fighting games, by their very nature, are exceptionally hardcore. One-on-one, mano-a-mano, no escaping who's better in a very confrontational way. The FGC is a community of almost remorselessly competitive players, and because of that, the market for these games would be traditionally smaller than other genres. But what NetherRealm and other companies like Nintendo with Smash Bros has realised is that there are ways to keep casuals interested and spending money while still making the game hardcore, and that's cosmetics. Cool skins, character armor sets, challenge modes, well-executed story experiences, etc. Sound familiar? It should. Doom is a hardcore game that has a story, has challenge elements, and now will have an evolving cosmetic sandbox too. To me, the inclusion of a battle pass, however it's monetized or not as the case may be, indicates that ID and Bethesda are strategically placing Doom Eternal to be a mass appeal game, and to be honest, who can blame them for that? Doom 2016 has a Switch port, for God's sake. Now in reality, I don't have many friends that played that first Doom that aren't hardcore FPS fans, but because of the game's reputation, I expect Eternal to be much bigger than that game, successful as it was. Now I'm not saying Martin is lying, I don't think he is, but I do predict Doom Eternal will have some ongoing cost at some point to support further content. It kind of has to when you consider the wider picture of the entire industry. As long as it's reasonable, I don't think anyone would complain anyway. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. Are you excited for this game? How do you feel about battle passes in single player experiences? I'd love to know. That's about it for today. I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you like the content on this channel, please hit that subscribe button and click the bell icon so you get notified when we upload. Until next time.